Is Vladimir here?
Yeah,
Yes.
here.
Can you take us off?
Yeah, hey everyone. So on the pages side, we started on Thursday or on Friday, I guess, deploying to the object storage to a separate bucket. We were using artifacts before. Today we had about 6,000 of new deployments already. So in 4 days, basically. So the next step, as Camille described below, will be migration. So that was the status.
So my question now is, are we still thinking that end of the summer is when we would finish this migration and be able to completely remove NFS?
Sorry, that was a very unfortunate call. Can you repeat the question?
Sorry. I'll repeat that. So the original estimate was that we would finish with the migration of pages off NFS by the end of the summer, roughly. So just trying to see if that estimate stands or whether we have a better idea, later, earlier, we don't know.
End of December sounds reasonable to me right now, but I'd say for me, it's more of a gut feeling that estimate, which I did. So basically the next step is just writing the migration, which at the moment doesn't sound that big, and running it in the production. And hopefully there will be not so many problems there, but can't guess at the moment. Maybe Camille has something to say here. I don't know.
So Gary, I'm pretty confident that we're gonna finish migration in the 13.7. I'm just uncertain to different timings that we will be able to run that fully during that. So
I'm just asking. I'm not yet pressuring.
No,
maybe,
no,
in a couple of weeks.
Yes, so there is even FYI from me in the next section, because we are thinking about different approaches right now to run this migration on the production to have full control of this migration, because we're gonna be basically migrating a ton of data. So we actually can discuss that how we want to approach this migration, because we in all cases we need SRE help to run that. But we are now working on details, how we want to approach that. So we'll have these more details next week to start asking for more help from.
So
sorry,
my question there is is there a thread or an issue open for this discussion so that SRE can get involved earlier in the discussion?
So Brent, we only had basically discussion on the GitLab pages weekly meeting last week. And Vlad is right now working on the details and step and iterations. So we don't really yet have this firm plan that I could give you link, but I hope I will have this plan next week, so we could get familiar with at that point. I mean, the next week is basically gonna be start of the 13.7. So the soonest that we would expect some results would be, I don't know, probably second half of the December, or maybe second week of the December. We need some time to work through these details later. So it's still not immediate, but I guess in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from this initial conversation, next week, we'll need some help to drive that with you.
Okay. I will interface with you, Brent, and make sure that you stay in the loop as early as possible to make sure we can get help from SRE. I would also say that if we get close to the holidays, we should skip and do it in January. Meaning if we're not gonna, at some point we need to make a decision that if we're not going to finish, say, before the second week of the summer, we should just pause that work, let the holidays go through, let people enjoy their time off, and then continue early in January to wrap it up in early January. Just in case we, somehow run into an issue during the migration during the holidays and it of course will happen at the worst possible time. So, but I'll stay in the loop on this and make sure that everybody is connected. So, all right, Jason.
The web service implementation as a generator is almost done. We currently believe that this should be in by the end of the week. The biggest thing here is that once this is done, we'll be unblocking the rest of the Puma-based fleets for migration to Kubernetes, where we are seeing some other problem. The implementation brings inheritance of existing patterns that we have in place. So as we're using it for Git HTTPS and such as of now, we'll bring those in. The only reason it's still in draft at this point is we want to make sure we have a full flesh of the R spec to know that the way that the inheritance is behaving is exactly how we designed it. Otherwise, it's been tested, it's been demonstrated, and it is working. But it's one of those things where this is critical enough that we need to have a fully fledged test suite.
I was going to ask, do you have any updates on the size of on the creation of the reference architectures for cloud native?
Yes, I can dig those out. My apologies, it's been a very busy morning. We do have reference examples going in. We're actually taking some learnings from the implementation of the reference architectures into our documentation right now and actually making a default change in how the load balancers are set up. We should be bringing that math across into the official documentation probably within a week.
Okay. Is there anything you need from SRE's observability or your?
At the moment, I don't have anything off the top of my head that I need specifically from observability or the SREs. Obviously, once we have that metric in place, I would strongly suggest that those teams look at them and make sure that what our observations are match theirs. We primarily have based off of what production is using for the configurations as a learning object when we bumped into problems as we discussed last week.
Okay. And then I know Mac is obviously highly interested in those reference implementations. Is there anything from your side, Mac?
Not as of this moment. I think my team is here to ensure that we ingest the changes to the reference architectures as long as when ready to be done.
Okay. All right. The HS container, anything besides what we have there?
At this point, we have 13.7 scheduled for us to do the work. We're welcoming anybody to go ahead and step in and accelerate that if they'd like. Once that container has been created, we can do the work to create a chart. And once that chart is in place, we should have all the final blockers for at least MVP support of pages in Cloud Native 100% fresh installs as we wait for migrations patterns and we resolve some issues regarding OAuth automation.
Marian, is there any help your teams can bring to this effort? It's okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm distracted.
Jason was mentioning, we were talking about the Pages container.
Yeah.
And I know your team has a lot of experience doing this kind of work. So if there are any cycles that we could get to help out with this effort.
So we are currently working on disaster recovery with Geo and migrating the Git SSH on Kubernetes. So I don't think we currently have any cycles because both of those are very high priority.
All right. All right. I think, Camille, we covered your last item on this section with Pages. So
Yes, I think it was fully covered.
cool. Josh.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise a discussion item here on Minio. Basically, it'd be good to get a understanding of the benefits that GitLab would experience by standardizing and centralizing as object storage as the only method of interfacing with content that is not Git repositories and the Postgres database. mainly because from a customer standpoint, in a single node experience, this is an additional service to maintain, and it will add some complexity. And we'll also, of course, need to think about, from an administration standpoint, scaling the service, zero time upgrades, how resilient the service is, how to back it up and restore it, and so on. So it's, I would say it's, there'll be increased work and potentially also increased complexity in the stack. So it'd be good to understand the benefits that we would get by centralizing this. Probably imagine like code cleanliness and things like that. But that'd be good to help round out the business case here for standardizing in Minio and shipping it along with all of our packages. So, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was so all of these areas you're mentioning are already happening on, say, a POSIX file system. And I think what you're asking is, do we want to do the work right now to entirely get rid of POSIX and use this one thing? I mean, am I reading this correctly?
Yeah, well, I think the proposal was to ship Minio in the package and then essentially exclusively use that for all content that is not the database or the Git repositories and logs, right? So we would use cloud native objects, cloud native job traces. We would use it for uploads. We'd use it for all that content. And we would no longer use the standard POSIX file rewrite anymore. And so we would have one single interface for all of that content. And so my main question here is to try and help just, it's just the balance on the other side of it is that it adds complexity on the customer side and troubleshooting and support side of things. And also we have another service to worry about and kind of care and feed and maintain for on the omnibus side of things.
But isn't that complexity kind of relative? Right, if you already have customers that are using object storage, then now we're supporting object storage and POSIX. And at some point, one of these things is going to get less attention. So I'm not saying we should solve it now, but I think long-term, the right decision would be to just say object storage all the way through. Not necessarily as a blocker for whatever work we're doing right now, but I would recommend that we just choose one, and then that would eliminate, you mentioned code tidiness. That would certainly eliminate a bunch of stuff of, oh, if you're using this, do this, and if you're using that, do that, plus multiple backup solutions, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe not right now, but long term, I would definitely lean in support of just having a single thing that is object all the way through.
Yeah, and so Camille, just to continue this one discussion thread, we do have to test object storage right now, but we use external providers, of course, S3, GCS, etc. And I think from like a workload standpoint, carrying and feeding for and maintaining and shipping Minio is probably a lot more than the work we do in testing the POSIX file input output. With my sense, Jason would probably know more there, but at least from a distribution standpoint of things. Now, obviously, that might change once we incorporate the broader GitLab application testing that we do.
Is less about, is it the right choice down the road? It's about documenting and understanding where all of the engineering work is going to be coming from and why this decision was actually made. It's not going to be a small change. It's going to be a highly impactful change across the entirety of the organization. So we need to make sure that it's written down and it's planned out.
I mean, like, I have a few random comments to add to that kind of structure. There is like, of course, it's gonna have performance penalty, so we need to also be aware of that. Like, the direct access will always be faster. There's like one layer less to do. Second, like how we handle existing data, so it should be kind of transparent to users using that. So I don't know, somehow we instrument Minio to expose existing file system, maybe behind the object storage interface, and like how it would work. Then there is like all these aspects that Josh is mentioning. I think like it's pretty big change, to be honest. But on the other hand, if you would be able like to make it only way to access on the right side, it would make it significantly better. But maybe like we should start with the, I don't know, architectural blueprint for that, and like try to gather these aspects and try to investigate these to have it more structured.
All right.
Yeah, I think that would be good. To round up the picture, I think that would be great. So I can help get that blueprint rolling, get an issue open, and start the dialogue there, and start capturing at least what areas we want to make sure we collect in this across the whole application and company.
It's interesting because even like cloud native, it's gonna affect like our reference architecture sizing probably as well, and like we need to somehow take that into account, like measuring the impact of Minio. And I'm just like asking then another question, like, is Minio the best solution for use? Maybe there are better solutions to object storage given like the requirements. So I guess like Minio is more like the idea having like the object storage kind of interface, but is it like Minio the best one that we want to support? And I think like we need to answer that question as well. And because as you mentioned, like we actually support a bunch of the cloud providers, which is like Azure, Google, AWS, and all of them have some kind of quirks. And I just wonder like if it's not another quirk that we are introducing. So I'm just like, it's pretty challenging like thing to investigate and choose the right one.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I think we can defer this to the blueprint. Like I think as a working group, we won't concern ourselves with this because we can still operate with POSIX and still deliver on the things that the working group has to deliver. But then tackling this, given the how big a project it might turn out to be, then going through the blueprint route is probably the right thing to do, because I would imagine we wouldn't do any work on this anytime soon. Like it's going to be a while. So cool. Andrew.
Yeah, just a FYI. So I created an issue to kind of track some of the operational responsibilities of supporting the first GitLab managed instance. Created this after we discussed with the account team some of the tactical aspects of who's first in line for supporting this, whether tickets go to customer support first, and then when do they come to infrastructure. So I wanted to get this into an issue, and the goal would be to drive alignment between the various teams on some of those aspects. And then also, Jerry, I know we had a few open questions in our doc. Like to use that as the place to track chasing answers for those.
Yeah. Are you the DRI here? Are you expecting me to be the DRI or someone else the DRI?
I mean, I was gonna chase these down.
Okay.
I've already met with the account team, so I'm happy to move forward with it.
All right. Yeah. Just let me know if you need anything from me. Obviously, you have other infra folks here that have a stake on this as well. So anything we can do to help answer those. That is everything we have in the agenda today. So unless anyone wants to raise anything else. One point, I am hopefully this week going to figure out how I get permissions to upload to YouTube. And I'll stop pestering people to do it for me. So I just need to find 30 minutes to chase that down and ask the right person and get my access taken care of so that I can upload these videos. So my apologies. I will see you all next week.